Have you ever noticed the more available you are, the less people value you? You reply instantly. You show up on demand. You're always there. And slowly, you vanish. Not because you're invisible, but because you've made yourself too visible to everyone. In a world that rewards noise, the wise retreat. The powerful don't chase presence. They command it by appearing less. This isn't about being distant. It's about reclaiming your time, your peace, your worth. Because here's the truth. The more they can reach you, the less they respect you. Today, we uncover the mindset of rare individuals, the monks, the masters, the untouchables, who speak less, appear less, but move the world in silence. And it starts with one decision: stop being available. 1. Familiarity breeds contempt. So stop being familiar. Have you ever noticed how people treat you differently when you're always around? At first, they're grateful. They smile when you show up. They thank you for your presence. But over time, something strange happens. The appreciation fades. The respect weakens. And eventually, they stop seeing you altogether. Not because you changed, but because you became too predictable. The truth is this: people stop valuing what they see too often. When your presence becomes expected, it loses its power. You may think that always being available makes you loyal, kind, or generous, but in reality, it often makes you forgettable. Just like a song that's played too many times, your presence becomes background noise. This is why the most magnetic people don't try to be seen all the time. They don't flood the room with their presence. They create space. They understand the value of their absence. When they appear, it feels intentional, not automatic. They are distant, not desperate, and that distance makes them unforgettable. Stop thinking that showing up constantly will make people respect you more. It won't. Instead, it will make you easy to overlook. In friendships, relationships, or work, if you're always accessible, people will start assuming your time is limitless. But when you begin to pull back, to guard your energy, people feel your absence. And in that absence, they begin to remember your value. So here's the mindset shift. Disengage to become desired. Withdraw to become remembered. Disappear, not because you're giving up, but because you're leveling up. Don't fear being less visible. Fear being constantly available and completely unappreciated, because in the end, it's not your presence that makes you powerful. It's your controlled presence. 2. Use silence as a weapon, not weakness. In today's world, people talk endlessly to be seen, to be liked, to feel in control. But those who are truly powerful understand something different. Not everything needs a response. Not every word needs to be spoken. Silence, when used intentionally, becomes a weapon. Think about it. When someone says something disrespectful, and you don't flinch, don't react, don't even blink, that silence creates discomfort. It forces them to sit with their own words. That's power. Because while others are quick to speak, powerful people know when to hold their tongue and let silence do the talking. Silence isn't weakness, it's restraint. It's presence without performance. In fact, it's the most underestimated form of strength. It shows that you are not controlled by emotion, by noise, or by ego. It shows that your energy is calm, centered, and unshakable. Look at the people who command respect. They aren't loud. They don't constantly explain or defend themselves. They speak rarely, but when they do, everyone listens. Why? Because their silence has already said enough. Their quietness builds anticipation. Their stillness builds presence. Silence gives you control. When you pause before reacting, you observe more. You gather information. You protect your energy. You see clearly who's speaking truth and who's just trying to provoke you. It allows you to respond with intention, not impulse, So stop rushing to fill every gap with words. Don't speak just to prove you're right. Let your calm disturb their chaos. Let your stillness feel louder than their shouting. Remember, thunder may make noise, but it's the silent moon that moves the ocean. Use silence like a blade, clean, precise, and powerful. In a world full of noise, the one who controls silence controls everything. 3. Availability screams desperation. Kill it. Most people don't realize it, but being constantly available sends the wrong message. It doesn't say you're reliable, it says you're desperate. It tells the world, I have nothing more important than you. My time belongs to anyone who asks for it. And that is the fastest way to lose respect. When you're always responding instantly, always saying yes, always showing up, you're teaching people that your time is cheap, that your peace, your energy, your focus can be bought with nothing. You think you're being helpful, but what you're really doing is trading your self-worth for temporary validation. Here's a truth that stings. People value what they have to earn. The more accessible you are, the more invisible you become. You can be the most genuine, giving person in the world, but if you're always available, you'll still be taken for granted. Not because people are cruel, but because that's human nature. Powerful people guard their time like treasure. They don't answer every call. They don't jump at every message. They create space, and that space builds respect. It creates a sense of boundary, and boundaries are what separate a respected presence from a replaceable one. From this day forward, stop responding just to be polite. Stop saying yes out of guilt. Start saying no to the things that drain you, and maybe later to the things that can wait. Delay your responses. Make people wait. Let them feel the silence. Because when you're not always available, people begin to wonder what you're doing. And in that wondering, your value begins to rise. Desperation is loud. Power is quiet. You don't need to prove your worth through presence. You prove your worth through boundaries. So kill the need to be available for everyone and become available only to what deserves your energy. 4th, stop explaining, start observing. There's a deep flaw in how we're taught to communicate. We're told that if we want to be understood, we must explain ourselves constantly. Our feelings, our silence, our choices. But here's the reality. The more you explain, the more power you give away. Explanations are often driven by fear, the fear of being misunderstood, judged, or rejected. So you talk, you justify. You try to prove that your intentions are pure, that your silence doesn't mean distance, that your boundaries aren't rejection. And what happens? People still don't understand. Or worse, they use your words against you. Explaining too much is not a sign of clarity. It's a sign of internal unrest. It's what happens when you're seeking permission to be yourself. But ask yourself, why are you explaining your peace to those who disrupt it? Powerful people don't over-explain. They observe. They speak when it matters. They act when it counts. And the rest of the time, they watch. They listen. They let the noise pass. Because explaining is often emotional. But observation? Observation is strategic. When you observe rather than explain, you create space between you and the chaos. You begin to understand people's true nature. You notice patterns. You see who respects your boundaries and who panics when they don't have access to you. You learn who listens and who waits only to respond. And most importantly, you discover how often your words fall on deaf ears. Observation gives you insight. It gives you control. It gives you leverage. Explaining gives you nothing but exhaustion. Here's the truth. Not everyone deserves to know your reasons. Not everyone has earned the right to understand your silence. Not every action requires an audience. We live in a world obsessed with being heard. Everyone's shouting, everyone's reacting, everyone's defending. But the wisest people, they sit quietly, they see everything, and they choose silence over chaos because they know their power is in presence, not performance. Think about the last time someone pushed you for answers. Why didn't you respond? Why are you so quiet? What's wrong with you? And you explained. You gave reasons. You tried to be nice, thoughtful, clear. But did it change anything? Or did it just drain you? People who truly understand you don't need explanations. And people who constantly demand them? They're not looking for clarity, they're looking for control. So stop giving them that power. There's a difference between communication and justification. One builds connection, the other builds resentment. Learn to recognize when your words are adding value and when they're just feeding someone else's ego. Here's how you shift into observation. When someone disrespects your boundary, don't argue. Observe how they react to no. When you walk away from drama, don't explain. Observe who follows and who fades. When you choose peace over performance, don't defend your silence. Observe who respects it and who calls it weakness. Because every reaction around you tells a story, and if you're always talking, you'll miss it. The Buddhist path is rooted in mindfulness, in becoming the watcher of your own mind, in choosing reflection over reactivity. The monk doesn't waste breath explaining why he chose stillness. He simply embodies it, and in that stillness, he sees more than most people ever will. That can be you. Let your silence become your mirror. Let your calm reveal what words can't. Let your energy speak for you. Because the moment you stop explaining and start observing, you stop trying to be understood and you start understanding. That's the shift that creates peace, sharpens intuition, and builds real power. From now on, choose to be less reactive and more reflective. You'll realize that silence never needs to be explained, because those who feel your presence never need your permission to respect it. 5. Detach from approval. Reclaim your power. Most people live their entire lives chasing approval without realizing how deeply it controls them. The need to be liked, accepted, praised, or understood runs so deep that it shapes our decisions, limits our truth, and chains us to roles that don't reflect who we truly are. We say yes when we want to say no. We stay quiet when our soul wants to speak. We show up for people who would never do the same for us. And worst of all, we betray ourselves to protect their comfort. All of this for approval. But what does it cost? It costs your peace. It costs your authenticity. It costs the quiet confidence of living in alignment with your values. Approval is a drug, and most people are addicted to it without knowing. It creates a high when you're liked and a crash when you're not. And just like any addiction, it becomes a prison. You start adjusting your identity based on how others perceive you. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of all suffering, and approval is one of the most dangerous attachments of all because it hides behind the illusion of love, connection, and kindness. But make no mistake, approval seeking is not kindness. It's fear. It's fear that without others' acceptance, you won't be enough, and that fear will keep you stuck, small, and silenced. If you want to reclaim your power, you must first break your addiction to being liked. You must realize that the people who matter don't need you to perform for them. The people who genuinely respect you will never ask you to shrink to fit their comfort. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that doesn't feel real. You don't have to justify your boundaries, explain your silence, or decorate your truth to make it easier for others to accept. Detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It's saying, I don't need your approval to be at peace with who I am. It's letting go of the invisible leash that makes you jump every time someone disapproves of your path. It's standing in your decisions with strength, even when others question them. It's recognizing that your worth isn't negotiable, And it doesn't decrease just because someone else doesn't see it. When you detach from approval, you become dangerous. Not in a harmful way, but in a liberated way. You stop playing small. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop over-explaining your every move. And that silence, that sovereignty, makes people take notice. Suddenly, your time becomes more valuable. Your words carry more weight. Your presence feels more intentional, because it is. You're no longer everywhere trying to please everyone. You're exactly where you need to be, doing what aligns with your truth. And that's what makes you powerful. Detachment isn't about not caring what anyone thinks. It's about caring more about what you think. It's about putting your peace above their opinion. It's about saying, I'd rather be misunderstood for who I am than loved for who I'm not. The fear of disapproval is what keeps most people mediocre, but the courage to let go of that fear is what sets the rare ones free. Ask yourself, how many times have you watered down your truth just to be accepted? How many times have you stayed in rooms where your soul didn't feel safe just to avoid disappointing others? What would your life look like if you only said yes when you meant it? What kind of power would you regain if you stopped trying to prove yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you? You were not born to be liked. You were born to be real. And the more real you become, the more you will naturally repel what is fake, shallow, and misaligned. This is not rejection, it's redirection. It's the universe clearing space around you so that what's meant for your highest self can finally reach you. And no, not everyone will celebrate your detachment. Some people will call you arrogant, distant, selfish, or cold, but that's only because they can no longer feed off the version of you that was built for their approval. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them misunderstand. Your job is not to make everyone happy. Your job is to make your life a place of truth, purpose, and peace. Detachment is how you begin that process. It is the art of unhooking your worth from other people's reactions. It is the strength to choose solitude over fake acceptance. It is the wisdom to walk away not in anger, but in clarity. And it is the silent power that grows when you no longer need to be seen to feel valuable. So detach, not from love, but from approval. Love flows freely. Approval demands performance. One liberates, the other enslaves. Choose your freedom, reclaim your power, and never again beg for validation in rooms where your truth was never welcome to begin with. 6. Guard your energy like sacred fire. Your energy is your most sacred currency, yet most people spend it recklessly, giving it away to anyone who asks for it, wastes it, drains it, or misuses it. You answer calls when your soul begs for silence. You stay in rooms that steal your peace. You scroll endlessly, give endlessly, listen endlessly, until there's nothing left of you by the end of the day. And still you wonder why you feel depleted, distracted, disconnected. It's because you've made your energy too available. And what is always available is rarely respected. In the same way you wouldn't leave your front door open for strangers to walk in and out, you must not leave your mental, emotional, and spiritual doors open to every demand. Your attention is power. Your presence is influence. Your peace is a flame that keeps you centered, focused, and alive. But like any sacred fire, it must be protected from the storm. In Buddhist philosophy, the self is observed, not owned, meaning we are not our thoughts or emotions, but we are the space that holds them. However, that doesn't mean we are unguarded. Awareness doesn't mean exposure. Clarity doesn't mean compliance. You can observe the world and still have strong gates around your soul. The moment you start treating your energy like gold instead of scrap, everything changes. Not everyone deserves access to your time. Not every conversation deserves your input. Not every situation deserves your reaction. When you begin filtering your life not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect, people will either rise to meet your standard or walk away. And either way, your peace wins. The reason you're tired is not because you're doing too much, but because you're giving too much to what doesn't feed you. You give and give without asking, is this giving me life in return? You pour into people who never pour back. You allow emotional leeches to steal your light, and you call it compassion. But compassion without boundaries is self-destruction. The truth is, every interaction either feeds your fire or puts it out. Every moment is either helping you rise or weighing you down. And if you don't become selective, your energy will continue to be stolen by distractions disguised as duties. This isn't selfish, it's spiritual maturity. You were not made to be available to everything and everyone. You were made to be aligned. Aligned with your truth, aligned with your peace, aligned with what actually matters. So ask yourself, who or what are you giving too much to? Who drains your spirit the moment they enter the room? What habits, apps, or relationships make you feel small, numb, or invisible? And now the deeper question, why do you keep allowing it? What fear keeps you from protecting your own flame? Is it guilt? Is it people-pleasing? Is it the belief that your worth is measured by how much you can endure? Because here's the truth. The world will praise your hustle and celebrate your sacrifice right up until you burn out completely. It will tell you to give more, stay longer, answer faster, and never once stop to check if you're okay. But your healing begins the moment you realize that you don't have to earn rest. You don't have to justify peace, and you don't need permission to guard your soul. You are not rude for being unavailable. You are not selfish for choosing quiet. You are not cold for walking away from chaos. You are wise, and wisdom means knowing that a sacred fire cannot burn in the open during a storm. It must be protected not because it is weak, but because it is powerful. When you stop offering your energy for free, people will complain, push back, even disappear. Let them. The ones who value you will stay. The ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries will leave. And that's the purification. This is how you rise. This is how you reclaim your life, not by doing more, but by doing less of what empties you, by surrounding yourself with peace, purpose, and people who add to your flame, not blow it out. Let your energy become rare. Let your presence become earned. Let your soul become a place of warmth and strength, not a campfire for everyone else to gather around and drain. You are not obligated to carry the weight of every conversation, every emotion, every emergency. You are allowed to choose what enters your space. You are allowed to protect your inner world. Because when your energy is sacred, your life becomes sacred too. And that is the quiet power that no one can steal from you. 7. Disappear strategically. Reappear with power. In a world obsessed with constant presence, the idea of disappearing feels like rebellion. But for powerful people, strategic disappearance is not retreat, it's refinement. You don't vanish because you're weak or broken. You vanish to gather your strength, to rebuild your vision, to sharpen your mind and return 10 times stronger. Most people live in fear of being forgotten, so they show up everywhere. Posting constantly, speaking endlessly, filling every space they enter because they believe being seen means being significant. But what they fail to understand is this: the more available you are, the less impact you create. Familiarity, when unearned, breeds blindness. People stop noticing you not because you lost your value, but because you made yourself too accessible. And the ones who understand this truth learn to master the art of absence. They don't chase attention. They don't explain their silence. They withdraw, not to hide, but to become more potent. They understand that distance creates value, that mystery awakens curiosity, and that disappearance isn't about being missed. It's about being remembered differently. Think about the moon. It disappears from the sky for days, yet no one forgets it. In fact, we await its return with reverence. That's what your energy should feel like. Something sacred, something that's not always around but always noticed when it returns. Your constant presence makes people entitled to your attention, but your absence, that teaches them to appreciate you, to reflect, to recalibrate. And when you finally reappear, stronger, clearer, calmer, they don't just see you, they feel you. The silence, the distance, the pause, it all builds weight behind your presence. But here's the catch. You can't disappear just to manipulate others or provoke a reaction. That's ego. Disappearance must come from a higher place, a space of self-realignment, where you return not to impress, but to embody your growth. The monk retreats to the mountains not to be dramatic, but to purify his spirit. The lion leaves the pack not to prove anything, but to sharpen its instincts. You too must learn when to step away, not out of bitterness, but out of inner necessity. Because the world is loud, and in that noise, it's easy to lose yourself. But when you step back, you begin to hear your own voice again. You begin to feel what truly matters. You no longer move out of obligation, but out of purpose. And the beauty of strategic disappearance is that it separates what's real from what's convenient. When you disappear, the people who only wanted your energy for their own benefit will fall away. And that's the blessing. Absence reveals loyalty. Silence exposes motives. Distance purifies your environment. You'll see who reaches out when there's nothing to gain. You'll see who panics when they can't control you. You'll see who respects the version of you that no longer makes them comfortable. And more importantly, you'll see yourself clearly, fully, without interference. When you're constantly in motion, constantly performing, constantly reacting, you lose your depth. But when you disappear, you start digging inward. You confront the fears, the attachments, the self-betrayals. You meet your own stillness, and in that stillness, you transform. Disappearing doesn't mean cutting everyone off or vanishing in pain. It means consciously stepping back from the noise to refine the frequency of your life. It means letting go of anything that dilutes your purpose. And when you return not with words, but with energy. Not with announcements, but with alignment. People will wonder where you went. They'll try to figure out what changed, and you won't need to explain a thing, because the growth will be in your presence, the power will be in your silence. The transformation will be obvious, so dare to disappear, not to punish the world, but to elevate yourself. You don't have to be seen all the time to be valuable. You don't have to be loud to be felt. Your absence can be your power, your silence can be your statement, and your return can be your revolution. Learn to leave the room before you are no longer heard. Learn to vanish before your energy is taken for granted. And when you come back, let it be on your own terms, rooted, unshakable, and glowing from the fire you built in solitude. If this message stirred something inside you, it wasn't by accident. The world tells you to be louder, to give more, to always be seen. But the Buddhist path teaches the opposite. True power isn't in constant presence. It's in intentional absence. It's in choosing stillness over noise, depth over attention, peace over performance. And when you begin to walk that path, everything changes. Your energy, your relationships, your entire life. Here at Buddhism Pathways, we don't chase the world. We return to ourselves. So if you're ready to stop being available to what drains you and start being present with what elevates you, you're already on the right path. Hit that subscribe button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and let's keep walking this sacred journey together, inward, upward, and in peace. Until next time, protect your flame, honor your silence, and let your absence speak volumes.